This is Robert Forsch with The Truth. I'm encouraging everybody to, to question everything, to explore what you believe, to research what you believe reality is. How does this all work out? Well, it's a real challenge because we have a tremendous amount of information, and along with that, a tremendous amount of deception. This here is the Cherry Grove Point, the point in Cherry Grove, as many know it. The coastal preserve here fills up from the open ocean. North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, is in the United States, is where we are. On my channel, including and especially my liked videos playlist, there is a tremendous amount of content there. And there is contradictory information there about that. And I'm not trying to give you a mixed message at all. What I'm wanting to do is help you to understand the reality that it's a real challenge to find the truth in a sea of deception. So the sun's approaching, the tide's going out. Low tide will be 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. And that is the open ocean right in the middle of the view there. Some of the videos I've shared recently are of the wildfires in Australia, as well as beautiful aerial platform recording of just the beauty and majesty of creation in Australia. It's a beautiful location. And so part of what I'll unfold too is the obvious contradiction in public policy and political activity, governmental activity there, as well as here. I posted some video about the missiles being launched in and around Iran. What's interesting about this is that the system of control presents information to cause an effect with the population. Therein lies the challenge. It's largely a manipulation of humanity, manipulating our perspective. The prison that most people are in is in their mind. It's what they believe to be true. So one of the realities that I'm showing right now is that little bright spot of sunlight approaching on the stationary and level Earth. Keep in mind the surface of undisturbed water is flat and level, and there would be no level anywhere if the Earth was spinning, wobbling, gyrating, rotating towards the sunrise at 1,038 miles an hour at the equator. No, that's not happening. So that heliocentric or global lie is just that. It's a lie. And I'm exposing that. I want you to know that. I wanted to keep the island in the view if I can and get the sunrise. So I'm going to just head on over this way a little bit. So I've got a live YouTube broadcast as well as a P1000 recording. It's about 34 degrees out right now. And for a good part of the evening, there was no wind. Now we've got an offshore coming from behind me at a couple miles an hour. So is what you believe true? How about a variation of this? Is everything you believe true? Is everything I believe actually true? There was a Star Trek episode where V'Ger was actually an artificial intelligence robot. Yeah. And he was really wreaking havoc on the Enterprise. And what Spock asked him or made a statement to him that caused him to fry. Spock was the example of perfect logic and lack of emotion. He said, everything I say is a lie. And the robot just fried, didn't know what to do with that. So part of the interesting dynamic is that we're presented a lot of the reality of the world we live in the movies, and then we're presented a lot of fakery in what's being presented as history, what's being presented as current events, current news, to manipulate humanity. And I'm exposing that. So Walter Cronkite, for his years of activity presenting information, would close out his presentation by giving the date, and that's the way it is. Or is it? You know, he presented the moon landing hoax as reality. He presented the the Vietnam War as necessary, and President Nixon, John F. Kennedy, all the different events that Walter Cronkite presented were presented as fact, of course. Why would I watch the news to be intentionally lied to? Well, the problem is a lot of people believe they're getting the truth there. And although there's some factual, truthful information being presented on the news, there's a lot of deception that is also being presented there. I believe it's actually beyond a level of critical thinking, human capacity to get what I'm talking about, because I mean to come away with ultimately what I believe the truth about all this is. So, to be very clear, I believe there's a spiritual battle going on between God and Satan and the two families that are representative. The God that I'm talking about is the author of the Bible, the living word, the living water, the great I am, the Alpha and Omega, knowing the end from the beginning. You may know him as Jesus Christ, Yeshua, Yahweh. He's the word that took up flesh and dwelt among us, paid a price that we couldn't pay for salvation. All of God's children will absolutely be born of his spirit. The responsibility that I have is to obediently walk with God and rely on him to empower me to do what I do. In the context of that, it's really unpopular with a lot of people. The majority of humanity, as best I can tell, is deceived. And by irony and paradox, they don't know it. They don't know they're deceived. And pride is a powerful catalyst for deception. So when information is being presented as scientific fact, the intellectuals will parade their ability to remember and regurgitate the false information. Quotes like, if you understand quantum physics, you clearly don't understand quantum physics. It's almost like the Spock line that says everything that I say is a lie. It's just very, very interesting. So, scientific fact, as it's presented, is largely science fiction. And if I go on a page or a video and comment to that effect where they're showing how gravity works and how amazing it is that all the planetary movements and all of that, well, if I say that's science fiction, a lot of them are just going to come on over and start hating on me on my channel. I know for sure that we don't live on a globe. That's not even possible. The upside down world exists in the imagination only. Meaning that down there in Australia right now, those wildfires are going on roughly upside down or at an extreme angle only in the imagination. The earth is stationary and level, the earth doesn't move. That's the biblical proclamation and the observable reality. So the people that are all about creating technology and believing they're helping humanity are largely in part, they're part of a grand illusion, a grand deception. So, for example, I've featured SpaceX and the projected launching of satellites for internet for everybody. Well, we do have a firmament up above the stationary and level Earth. That's the biblical proclamation. And I believe they're bouncing frequencies off of that. Cell towers. We've got Wi-Fi coming through, and coming through LED lights and that. I can hear the boat coming. I want to kind of zoom in on that. Show you the lights skipping, bouncing off of the windows there and reflecting on that water. He's going on out to do some crab trap placement and collection. There's a lot of shrimp boats out there today. Artificial intelligence is extremely sophisticated, powerful, and presenting a false reality to the collective consciousness of humanity. Extremely sophisticated. Here's the waves coming in from the boat. Maybe you can hear them. And then that'll stop. All the reflections like that. I'm intentionally here to show the washboard surface, the sunrise, the reflection of the birds in the water. Spectacular out here. The sun moves across the water much like a laser beam, showing the reality of the world we live in here at this location. Now I do have the P1000 recording, more zoomed in version of some of this. The tidal activity gives the anar-optical limitations based on perspective and vantage point is one of the reasons why it appears that ships are going over a curve. Well, if the Earth were a sphere, there would be a curve away from us and then to each side, left and right, and there is not. That's conclusive evidence that we don't live on a globe. The other one is all of our interaction with water, including using the bathroom to bathe, shower, relieve ourselves, or the great outdoors. That all indicates the impossibility of the globe. And the reason why I mention that continually is because one of the evidences that NASA is lying and SpaceX and Blue Origin and all that space fantasy is they're lying. It doesn't mean they lie about everything. I really do like the Solar City from Tesla and the Cybertruck and the Roadster. I can remember the numbers, the stats, the world's fastest production car ever, period. Yeah, pretty cool. I would like one. However, I can't afford it, and I don't believe Elon would want to give me one. I'm basically calling him a liar, presenting a false reality to humanity. And yet he talks about the artificial intelligence and cautions humanity and talks about, you know, one thing is for sure, we will not control it. How about that? How about that? Well, one of the things that I have to say about all that is now that I'm actually born again, the creator of this whole world lives inside of me and everybody else who's actually born again now. So greater is he that's in me than Satan and the fallen angels, demons, that type of thing. So that's why I'm not afraid. Now, not all of God's children are born again yet. I believe in the doctrine of election, the reality that God is all powerful and all knowing. And nothing happens in this world that he doesn't either cause or allow. That would be a problem for many people. And I was an atheist, okay? So for those that are atheists and believe I'm a simpleton for believing the Bible is true, I would say, okay, well, do you believe you live on a spinning water ball hurling through space? That's not even possible. How about that? You know, you can't hang a wind chime upside down. You can't get water to stick to a spinning ball, a tennis ball, a beach ball, or a globe supposedly about 25,000 miles in circumference. I even got some video on my channel where they're talking about what's at the core of Saturn. Are you serious? Or what's in the core of the world, the Earth? Like they can know? How? How could they know? Apparently, the deepest borehole that we've been told exists is 8 miles deep. That's the official story. They may have bored deeper, I don't know. I knew about tunnel boring machines in the early 70s. My dad sold steel to Manitowoc Engineering in Wisconsin. And he said, Bobby, I went down an elevator today. He looked like Get Smart. He was a commercial steel salesman. He sold exotic metals to the military industrial complex and the paper industry and uh, race car aftermarket manufacturing companies and shipbuilding, Sturgeon Bay shipbuilding and that. What he told me, he said, I went down in an elevator today and I saw a tunnel boring machine that was so big they put it on the front end of a locomotive. And then they ship them all around the world out of Sturgeon Bay. Pretty amazing. And then I found out later in life about the deep underground military bases, the military industrial complex, the drugging of humanity, putting chemicals in the water that stupefy. Fluoride will do that. read the back of the toothpaste tube. I wouldn't put that in my mouth. I use baking soda and boron water. I boil it and have it in some water jugs around. It also mitigates some of the self-replicating nanobots, the particles, the particulate that they're putting in the atmosphere. There's a modification of the gene pool. Putting chemicals in the food, water, and air. How about that? I'm telling on them. So there's weather wars. Looks like my friend Robert over there, he worked for the State Department. Let me zoom in on him. Yep, there he is. Let's see if he looks at me. Yeah, he and his wife work for the State Department. How about that? Yep. Got an English accent. Here, now he dropped him. I can zoom in on him. He's taking notes. How about that? So yeah, I'm not afraid to live, die, or tell the truth. How about that? Isn't that special? I did meet a Google executive out here. It's not like it's just kind of interesting. I've got a photographic memory. I don't remember it all. I just remember what I need to and retrieve it when I want to, when I need to. Also struck by lightning out here. Go figure. Struck by lightning is the name of the video. You can hashtag it if you want. I use a lot of hashtags and I put my name in almost everything, okay? And the reason why I do that, as well as my phone number, is it's searchable. And I want the people searching for the truth to be able to find it on my channel and on my social media activity, the platforms that I'm on. Because of what I do, about 40 million times people saw me and heard me. And because of that, I want them to be able to find my content. It's not a me show, it's a we show. A lot of, right now I've got almost 5,000 videos on my Like Videos playlist. I did a premiere about a month ago, and when I did the premiere, it was just a regular video, and my Like Videos playlist went to private. That deactivated tens of millions of occurrences of my playlists all around the world. Isn't that interesting? Last year on August 1st, Facebook stopped me from putting my photo album link in comments. There's over 2,800 photos there and tens of millions of occurrences of my liked videos playlist in that. Had a friend tell me that YouTube took took all his playlists and his watch list and wiped them out. So he was extremely grateful that, waving over at Robert there. He was extremely grateful I sent him my playlist because it had a lot of the videos that he liked. In fact, he's been following me for quite some time and he couldn't find my channel. So just to be intellectually honest, when you type a word search in and you get millions of results in less than a half a second, how many of those millions of results do you actually go through? Do you actually look at? So they don't have to actually take a channel down to hide that information from people. Now, because of the tide going out, I can show you a sailboat that was scuttled a couple years ago here. There it is. We've got real science, which is buoyancy. And yes, buoyancy works in the atmosphere as well. hydrogen dirigibles like the Hindenburg float until they meet up with the grounding and the electrical properties that caused it to explode. So hydrogen, oxygen and hydrogen, H2O, is what we're looking at in front of us, and there's other elements in the water. However, when you apply enough electricity to water, it'll shatter the bond and you've got hydroxygen, a combustible mixture. I'm going to show you some flat and level water right here in the view. Those trees right there reflecting back. And then this one right here, the island there. If you're watching on the live broadcast, come on back later if you like. A couple hours from now, I'll have this video up there. Do you know how much a gallon of water weighs? That depends on temperature. Temperature changes volume and density of water. That variant drives the water cycle of the world. Australia is being affected by a serious drought by the withholding of water through private dams and the selling of water. It's illegal. It's criminal what's going on there. And you can explore my content on the channel to see that. Millions of animals being burned to death. I don't know how many Aborigines there were in Australia. I'm sure there's fewer now. How could they run away from that? It's criminal. Because of the weather wars, there's weather modification going on. Droughts and floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, electronic weapons. The firmament is, we've got evidence of that in Genesis, in the Bible. God opened up the floodgates of heaven, the fountains of the deep, and caused it to start raining. They're bouncing frequencies off of the signals, off of the dome, to give supposed satellite communications, just so you know. I've got documentation on my channel to prove that. So you might want to take a look at my like video playlists and see what videos you like there. You may have already liked those videos. So I wanted to let you know that, and also to let you know that you can contact me anytime. If you hashtag my name, you'll help keep the search result of the Robert Forsch hashtag the #1 search result in the world for that search. I believe God's grace is required to love and believe the truth, let alone find it. I encourage everybody to seek the truth with all your heart. Feel free to reach out anytime. You can messenger me through Facebook. If you go there, all my stuff is public. You can see that. Thank you so much for your public and private encouragement. This is Robert Forsch with The Truth. So the P1000 recording ended. I think I'm going to just let this go for a while. Let you just see the beauty of this. This is a sea level liquid mirror here. Truly amazing. Now they have the leash law enacted. When I was doing the live broadcast and a police officer went by really quick, it was because they needed to enforce the leash law. So it's very like these birds are going to go flying at some point in time. What they did the other day, or typically when they're not leashed, the dogs will go running and the birds will go flying. I have a video where Inga from Sweden was running through the birds. I said, "Hey, Inga, do you wanna get the birds flying?" So she ran into him. She was, you know, about my age. Her and her friend were here. It was adorable. Well, it's so pretty, I decided to start up another video. So I've got the second video with the P1000. Some of what I say then for my live audience to know, I'll be repeating myself intentionally, knowingly. Is everything you believe true? And if you were believing something that wasn't true, how would you know that? How could you find that out? As many of us are acutely aware, it's very unpopular to enlighten somebody that they've believed a lie. So when I was a child and I found out that the whole Santa Claus deception was a lie, I didn't think how stupid could I be. I was thinking, why would they lie? What was that all about? Why did they do that? I'm going to pan on over here again and show you the trees there, how beautiful that is. Another one of the biblical proclamations is that God is evident within his creation. So those that are meandering off into explanations and formulas that do not reflect reality, I'm exposing them. I had trusted them to tell me the truth. I had trusted parents, teachers, family members, news presenters, pastors, public figures that were like Walter Cronkite saying, and that's the way it is. No, he was presenting a false reality, whether he knew it or not. And at some point in time, it probably became apparent to them or to him that telling the truth would probably be the end of his life or career, that type of thing. I've met people that work for the alphabet agencies out here. Imagine that. Virginia is right up the road. I ask questions. I can get a vibe from somebody. Big time when they say they're from Virginia and they and they have the look about them like a G-man or like they work for no such agency. It's like, you have any non-disclosure agreements intact in effect? Yes, I do. I can't talk about it. Now, personally, I don't. That's why I can talk about what I do. So vaccinations are toxic for many. A lot of the people that are all excited about having everybody vaccinated maybe got a couple of vaccines in their life, not the regimen that they're assaulting the small children with now. That's criminal. I'm telling on them. Putting toxic chemicals, sodium fluoride, in the baby water. That's toxic. That's criminal. In the toothpaste, in the drinking water. That's why I bathe in highly purified, carbon filtered, and solar activated drinking water. I put it in 5-gallon jugs because my little system will produce 70 gallons a day, depending on air temperature, water temperature. It produces more when it's warmer. But my tank on there is only like 2.5 gallons, so I have to fill it up. And I use that knowledge that I have that water seeks level to fill up my jugs on top of the washing machine because when they overflow, it'll just go in the washer. I could have 50 gallons of water go in there before it would ever go on the floor. So that'll never happen. Well, it could. It could if I couldn't get back to it. The there's a police officer checking to see that all the dogs are leashed up. They are enforcing a new ordinance. So, and the name of the live broadcast that my two P1000s will be linked with, the title is Question Everything. And then, of course, my name and truth, Robert Forsch and truth. See, when if you hashtag Robert Forsch, what you'll find is not just YouTube, you'll find LinkedIn, Twitter, MySpace. I don't think you're going to find any criminal record there. Yeah, if you've got concerns about me, go ahead and run my name. Now, to be clear, artificial intelligence could deposit a fabricated record. I don't have any history like that. Now, I do have drunken driving in 1983, 1982, I think it was, maybe 81, and selling a little bit of marijuana around the same time. Oh, wow. Because of that, I couldn't get in the military. I'm glad for that. You know, I was living on the street and I wanted to join the military so I could get a education and training, a place to stay and money. The system that creates the false reality, creates the false pretense for wars, will dry up an economic opportunity, fabricating, or I should say, like deindustrialization of North America, presenting the military industrial complex in many cases to build killing machines, flying, autonomous killing machines, and tanks and trucks and bombs and all of that. So instead of making cars, in a lot of cases, what happened is they went from making cars and heavy equipment, ship that over to other areas like China, take some of the customer relations, customer service, call centers, and send them over to India, dry up the economic opportunity in a lot of portions of the country, and where people have a pretty good aptitude for that kind of work, they'll then put some of the, like a Lockheed Martin, a Boeing, Oshkosh truck, that kind of thing. So if I were to be criticizing the military industrial complex, like having a sign that's exposing the atrocities of that, it would not be very popular where they're making the weapons of war at all, right? So the people that are relying on that for their way to make a living are not going to be supportive. And then those that were actually involved in war activity where they killed innocent people for corporate greed and the New World Order, they're going to have a hard time dealing with that. My brother-in-law shot himself to death because of it. Pat Stoker, he was um, he was born in Hawaii, and he operated a 50 caliber machine gun out of the bay door of a Huey helicopter. Imagine that, going in there to North Vietnam to kill a bunch of innocent people. It's criminal. The events of 9/11 of 2001, the false pretense for war there. And then for Desert Storm, we had the throwing the babies out of the incubators, which was a false story. Didn't happen. And yet it's legal for women to have their babies ripped out of their womb and human sacrifice that way. Well, and then they present it as it's a woman's choice to murder her baby. It's murder. 7 people per second no longer have the human experience. We're eternal beings having a temporary human experience. And then there are cloned entities, there are demonically possessed entities. God is still all powerful and all knowing. Wow, there they go. I'm just going to leave that still and let you see that. Wow. God is still in charge. The living word, the living water, the great I am, knowing the end from the beginning. That's why I'm not afraid to live, die, or tell the truth. Basically, reality exposes all the lies. The truth ultimately is interchangeable with reality and exposes all the lies. Is there something that I believe that's a lie? Could be. Could be. I'm not promoting any lie that I'm aware of. I wouldn't do that. Why would I do that? I'm not living a life for the pursuit of pleasure. I'm living a life for the purpose that I was created to expose the reality of the world that we live in to anybody who wants to know. So it's not just my talking about things. However, that is an important part of this because the way that this works out on the videos that I'm featured in, a lot of times my comments aren't recognized by anybody that comes on by. I'm the I'm one of the guys in the video um, that they're making fun of, and I'm muted on the channel. Go figure. I don't mind. I mean, I would like to be able to come on by and type a hyperlink in there. I can't do that. So I may put a hashtag, a space, and then my name, continuous. Let somebody go, I wonder what he's trying to say. What I'm trying to say is take the space out of there and see what you find. Thousands of occurrences of my activity. I may just put Robert Forsch there. Somebody go, huh? What's that? What's that all about? Or my phone number. Yeah, why not? So I do get every now and again, I'll get a prank call or a series of them, not that often. A lot of times I'll have people that'll reach out because of how lonely it can be telling the truth. If you want to clear a room, get uninvited from family events, social gatherings, just tell the truth about what really matters. It's not very popular. The truth isn't based on popular opinion. It's not popular and it's not an opinion, it's just the truth. It's the reality of the world that we live in. So, is it true? Whatever it is that you want to know about. And if you have the perspective that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to Google something and whatever they give me, that's okay. Doesn't matter, right? Yeah, it matters. If you want to know how to fix your car, you're going to want to get the right answer. If you want to know how to fix your life, you're really going to want an accurate answer. I'm an audiovisual teacher and learner. So I've used YouTube to rebuild a motorcycle clutch. I've taken apart motorcycles all the way down to the last bolt and reassembled them. However, I hadn't done that for a long time and I needed to replace the clutch in my liquid cooled shaft drive Honda VT500. It's a 1984, it's an old bike. Well, I needed to know exactly how to do that. And it's important to know if you're dealing with reverse threads on a clutch basket or a crankshaft, because otherwise, if you put enough torque on it, you'll snap the end off of it, and it's basically would cost more to replace the part than the bike is worth. So I wanted to know. So if I had the attitude of, okay, I want to know if it's a reverse, I want to know how to take that out of there. Are the threads reverse or not? Oh, it doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter if they lie about that. But you see, there's not a conspiracy to have people damage their motorcycle by turning the nut the wrong way on their crankshaft or their clutch basket. However, when it comes to people making decisions that matter for eternity, well, they're deceiving that. They're deceiving people on what they are saying the reality actually is. So we've got Greta Thunberg that's presenting just a terrible atrocity of climate change, global warming. Well, for one, it's not a globe, and the other thing, it is man caused or artificial intelligence generated weather weapons. So if somebody says, "Do you believe in global warming?" I'll say, "Well, I believe in weather wars. They're waging weather. I've got declassified documents that where the Navy says we rule the weather. We control the weather. How about that? High active auroral research project or program in Gakona, Alaska. But then there's all kinds of other weather modification technology going on. There's classified Nikola Tesla technology, uh, free wireless electricity. There's energy in the atmosphere. You can look at it with lightning and with the aurora borealis, the northern lights. I've actually seen them for real with my own eyes. Beautiful in Wisconsin. So on some of the videos that I've featured, there will be beautiful time-lapse videography from Iceland, Norway, Antarctica. And in a lot of the videos that have some accurate information, they're going to have the spinning water ball, the the beautiful blue marble. It's a fantasy. It's a dream. It's the American dream. Yeah. You have to be asleep to enjoy it, right? So I'm not all upset that I was lied to and believed it. I just wanted to know the truth. I wanted to know the truth more than anything else. Where will I spend eternity and why? And the question that had been on my mind for quite some time, if I was truly born again and had the power of the Almighty God, the Creator, living in and through me, why was I such a mess? Well, the reality was I was a dead man walking and did not know it. So I'm going to zoom in on a ship on the horizon a couple miles away. Because of atmospheric lensing and refraction, we can't see the bottom of that ship. Evaporation. I'll zoom on over here a little bit and show you this pylon, this vertical that is in the view right now. That is at the Intracoastal Waterway right there. And there's the ship or the sailboat that was scuttled a couple years ago. So I'm exposing all the control mechanisms that I've been able to find so far of the prison that I used to be in, and many people still are. The toxification. Now, what can we do about it? Does it matter? Yeah, of course it matters. So, what I'm doing about it is evaluating information and applying to my life what's beneficial. That's why I'm bathing in the purified drinking water and using borax and boron to mitigate some of the nanoparticle infiltration, self-replicating nanobots. Now, the other thing that it does, the borax does, is it kills candida, gastrointestinal fungus that has an appetite for sugar that's really toxic to the brain. How about that? It'll also kill toe fungus, jock itch, yeast infections, and more. Now, one of the problems with some of the medical treatments or the topical uh, things that people put on them to kill bacteria and fungus, it can have some serious health effects. And if you've heard the black box warning on some of the pharmaceuticals, you may have unusual thoughts, more frequent urination. You may want to kill yourself or your family and yourself. They normally leave that one off. Suicidal ideation includes a preoccupation with the death of others and the self. It's criminal that they would create and perpetuate chemicals in the food supply that affect people's decision making at such an effect. Is there a correlation between violent video games and violent movies and violence? Yeah. Oh, that doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Pun intended. The rocket scientists in many cases are like either knowing deceivers or they're just deceived and they don't know it. They're like magician. We've got religions that actually rely on, we've got fallen entities, demons, fallen angels that draw pleasure out of human suffering, animal suffering. Have you known people that tortured animals? I did. I couldn't believe it. When I was a kid growing up in high school, there was a kid that was mean to animals. He killed them, tortured them, and it was criminal. Uh, I'm not like that. It's weird to see people that are like that. And then there are people that do that to other human beings. They torture them. They sacrifice them. They'll herd them up like cattle and have pleasure with them, video themselves killing that individual. That's called a snuff film. Now I've got the Equalizer. If you want to see some Denzel Washington kick ass, there you go. Ooh, I said the A word. Well, you might hear the F bomb on a few of the videos that are on my channel too. But when you look at like the Russian mob that's involved in human trafficking and Denzel Washington exacts some justice on them, feels kind of good. Want to see the bad guys pay the price. Now, God's word says that vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So, because I'm not a organized church with passing a plate for people to put money in, and I don't have a 501c3 status that I'm trying to make everybody happy so they'll feel real generous and help me to, I'm not a televangelist. I'm not doing that kind of thing. I'm not enslaved to a system of control like that. The 501c3 tax exempt status is a muzzle on what should be not there, as far as I can tell. It's a trap. It's man's attempt to do God's work, but it's also Satan's attempt to muzzle the activity of the church. If, for example, I've seen it said recently, if the Bible was a fairy tale, why is it against the law to read it, to share it? It's not a fairy tale, it's the reality. We've got archaeological evidence to prove the biblical proclamations of Sodom and Gomorrah, the crossing of the Red Sea, and also uh, the Noah's Ark found in the mountains of Ararat. If those videos are still up on my channel, they're there. Every now and again, YouTube/Google, the artificial intelligence, will unlike a video for me about that. So my digital profiles could all get taken down, every one of them. AI could do that if God allowed it. So each one of us is schooling or teaching AI what we're about. And so there's a tracking, tracing, databasing, and threat assessment, not of conspiracy theorists only, of everybody. And that term conspiracy theorist was designed by the intelligence agencies to give people the persona that they're crazy if they don't go along with the official lie, the official narrative. I'm telling on them. Okay, so this video has been in the same location the whole time. Notice how the sun looks because of the angle, the perspective, how beautiful it is. The washboard surface of the water filling in all the low spots. It's beautiful. So this is a bit of a sound check. Obviously, the P1000 can't hear me. I wanted to see if the dissonance worked with my iPod Pro AirPods, or the AirPod Pros, they call them. So I'm going to go ahead and pan this around. Let's see, we've got, almost like a minute left on my other recording. All right. So thank you all for your public and private encouragement, the mutual encouragement, respect I have for so many of you is wonderful. Please pray for rain where there's droughts to relieve the suffering of the man and animal. Pray for justice. There will be justice. It will be done. I'm looking forward to that. There we go. Thank you so much for your public and private encouragement. This is Robert Forsch with The Truth.